Greetings from the Jazz Guitar Cloud. In this video, I want to share a lesson exclusively for those who are new to jazz. So if you're a rock or blues guitarist with some very basic knowledge of theory, and say you just joined your school's jazz band, or maybe you play in a band that has to do a gig where you'll need to play a few standards, well, I'm going to teach you how to simplify several standard jazz progressions so you can play them with only 3 chord types you most likely already know. Coming up next. Welcome back to the Jazz Guitar Channel, and if this is your first time, let me introduce myself. My name is Richie Zellon, and I'm a veteran jazz guitarist and educator with a lifetime of teaching experience at several great music schools internationally. And here on YouTube, I bring you weekly lessons on everything related to the art of playing jazz guitar. So if you're new to jazz, this is the place to get your feet wet. So please consider subscribing and be sure to click on the notification bell icon. Oh, I love to do that. So you won't miss anything. Throughout my years of teaching this intricate music we call jazz, on this 6-string beast we call the guitar, I've gotten several calls from desperate parents saying something along the lines of, "Professor Zellon, I'm calling you because little Johnny got accepted to his school's jazz band, and he has his first recital in 2 months. He's so talented and can play Zellon with his eyes closed, but he says he can't make heads or tails of these jazz charts the band director gave him." And of course, then there's always the other category of desperate caller. And this one's from the guitarist who either plays in a top 40 band or a wedding/corporate events band. You know the type. Anyhow, every now and then these bands get booked at events where they need to play some jazz during the cocktail hour or during dinner. Of course, the keyboardist and the horn players usually don't have a problem with this. Even the drummer and the vocalist can handle it. The bass player, most of the time. But the guitarist, he has no clue what that B-flat altered or that half-diminished chord is on the lead sheet. So he calls for help! Fortunately, in the case of both little Johnny and the top 40 guitarist, they both have enough dexterity and chops where they can learn a few new chord shapes in a short period of time. And as long as they have a basic understanding of the fretboard and some basic theory, there is always a temporary workaround to get through a few standards using only 3 chords. That is, until they have the time to learn all the other variations. And I want to emphasize temporary workaround because the solution I am going to teach you isn't really a jazzy sounding one. It will get you through the song, but if you really want to sound good from a true jazz perspective, you'll eventually have to put in the time and effort to learn each and every chord in the given standard as is. So having said that, what we are going to do is learn how to simplify several tunes using 3 basic chord types. And they are the minor 7th chord, the dominant 7th chord, and the major 7th chord. So before we proceed, let's review 2 chord shapes for each of these 3 chord types that you most likely already use. One will have the root on the 6th string and the other one on the 5th. So first I'm going to show you how to play the 3 chord families with the root on the 6th. Let's do the first chord family, a minor 7, and here's my root. In this case it's an A. Let's do all of them in A. Now using the same root, let's play a dominant seventh chord. I'm sure you've played most of these before. Let's turn this into a major seventh chord in A. So what we're doing, we have on the fourth string here, the flatted 7. We're raising it up a half step. Now let's look at our 3 shapes with root on the 5th string, because you need at least voicings that have the roots on 2 different strings so you can navigate the fretboard with more ease. And we'll see that in a bit when we start playing over a couple of standards. So starting with the minor, let's do this here in D minor. I'm sure you know this one. Minor 7th chord with root on 5th. Let's turn that into a dominant 7th chord. All we do is bring that middle finger up a half step using our pinky. Now we have a D7. And to turn that into a major 7, all we do is now we have the flatted 7 on the 3rd string. And we place our middle finger up a half step, and that makes it a major 7. So to recap, minor 7, dominant 7, major 7th. Just in case you don't know this, most jazz standards are composed of a series of short 2 to 4 chord progressions known as harmonic cadences. And the most commonly used cadence in jazz is the 2-5-1. I'm sure you've heard of it, where the 2 is usually a minor 7th chord, the 5 is a dominant 7th chord, and the 1 is a major 7th chord. I'm not going to get into the theory behind these configurations, though. I will say that in a 2-5-1 cadence, the 1 is what we can call a point of tonal resolution. This chord always establishes a permanent or even temporary sense of tonality in the piece. So keep it in mind because it's an important point of reference when analyzing a chord progression. Let me show you what 2-5-1 sound like using the chord shapes we looked at earlier. And right after this, we will break down several standards into just these 3 chord types. Let's look at a 2-5-1 with the root on the 6th string. That is, it starts with the root on the 6th string and it ends on the 1 chord with the root on the 6th string, but the 5 chord is played with the root on the 5th string. So, A minor 7, root on 6, D7, root on 5, and G major 7, root on 6. That's a 2-5-1 in the key of G. Now, let's look at the 2-5-1 starting with the root on 5th and ending with the root on 5th, and this is going to be in the key of C because C is going to be our 1, our final target chord. So we start with D minor 7, root on 5th, G7, root on 6th, and we end with C major 7, root on 5th. So next I'm going to show you how to play a standard that every jazz musician knows. Once you can play through this progression, you will have a good understanding of how to do the same with other major key standards that I will mention. So are you ready? Good, because for many of you, this will also be your introduction to functional harmony. I know I said I would keep the theory down to a minimum, but I just can't help myself. Sorry. The progression I want to look at is known as rhythm changes. This is not the name of a tune, but instead a reference to a chord progression based on the changes to I Got Rhythm by George Gershwin. And several jazz standards have been written over these changes, especially by Charlie Parker and a host of other great bebop musicians. And it's really the ideal vehicle to work on the three chord types we are dealing with. So here it goes. B-flat rhythm changes. We start up here, B-flat, major 7 root on 6. We go down to G minor root on 6, to C minor root on 5th, and F root on 6. Now, personally, as a jazz musician, I would never be caught dead using these voicings to play over a jazz tune. But remember, and here goes my disclaimer again, this is just, if you're just learning these and it's an emergency, you got to play the tune and you don't have time to learn all the nice voicings and do all the nice proper voice leading like. Okay, that's what jazz is. So here we're doing that's the first section, and that's what we call a 1, 6, 2, 5, 1 progression. Okay, and then after doing that twice, we're going to go to F minor, root on 6, B flat 7, root on 6, to E flat major 7, root on 6, again here to D minor, root on 5, G minor, root on 6, C minor, root on 5, and F, root on 6. That repeats twice. And after we go to the B flat the second time around, it's time for the bridge. And the bridge starts on D, root on 5. 2 measures. 2. Root on 6 for G, 2 measures. 2 measures of C, dominant. 1 measure of C minor, root on 5th. 1 measure of F, root on 6. All of these are dominants on the bridge, except this C minor, which forms a 2-5. And then, to end it, the C section is just like the A section, only that once. And then, or, okay? So once you can play through rhythm changes, some other major tonality standards that you might want to play through are tune-up and joy spring, which are great major 2-5-1 workouts. And also we have Scrapple from the Apple, 4, Afternoon in Paris, Cherokee, Perdido, and Carol. Remember that this strategy of just using these 3 chords should only be used as a quick workaround if you're new to jazz, and have to urgently get through some standards. Otherwise, it's a cop-out, and you will always sound like a non-jazz player. Having said that, if you like jazz and want to play it correctly, take the time to learn the proper chord voicings as well as scales and arpeggios so you can also improvise. It will enrich your knowledge of music tremendously and take your playing to an entirely new level. If you are interested, I've created several online courses where I walk you step by step in developing the necessary technique and understanding of theory, as well as provide all the necessary exercises to master jazz improvisation as applied to the guitar. It's called the Bebop Guitar Improv Series, and I am placing a link in the info section down below this video. If you're a jazz guitar rookie, I truly hope this lesson has been beneficial to you. Be sure to leave me a comment and let me know if you have any questions. Also, if you've enjoyed this lesson and haven't subscribed yet, please do so and be sure to click on the bell notification icon so you won't miss a thing. Stay cool and see you in the next video.